Now, Russia has launched its largest air attack since the war began on Ukraine, firing over 500 aerial weapons at Kyiv overnight Saturday. Now, Ukraine says 477 drones and decoys along with 60 missiles were unleashed, with 475 purportedly shot down by its air defenses and forces. Now, still, strikes hit regions far from the front line, killing at least 2 and injuring 12 others, including children. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the attack proves Putin isn't serious about peace and is in fact urging stronger international support and US air defense systems. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian F-16 pilot died after taking down 7 targets before his damaged jet crashed. Amid the chaos, Ukraine is now moving to also withdraw from a global landmine ban, citing Russia's use of banned weapons in the war that has extended over 3 years now. Meanwhile, the war is escalating and Ukraine says global pressure is needed now more than ever. Atlantic Council's Ukraine editor Peter Dickinson, in fact, joins us for more on this story. Thank you so much for taking out the time, Mr. Dickinson. What are your comments on the massive attack launched by Russia on Ukraine? And, you know, there seems to be no let-up. And though there have been some signs of a possible peace, now it almost appears impossible in a hopeless situation, sir.
Last night's bombing was the latest in a series of such attacks. It was, the Ukrainians say, it was the largest single bombing attack of the entire war. Now that's difficult to quantify because Russia uses different types of ordnance in these attacks. So it's hard to compare in terms of quantities, in terms of the drones they use, the different types of missiles and so forth. But it was certainly one of the biggest. And this has been an ongoing trend that we've seen in recent months, essentially since January, since Donald Trump returned to the White House. So clearly, we're not moving towards peace. There's almost no sign that we're moving toward any sort of settlement. On the contrary, Russia is escalating its air attacks. The volumes we're seeing now are around double what we were seeing last December before Trump was inaugurated. So the trend is quite clearly away from a peace settlement, and the only real talk of peace we're hearing is coming from America. The Ukrainians themselves have said they're ready for a ceasefire. They said that back in March. Russia so far has refused to join them in supporting a ceasefire, and everything we're seeing from the Russian side indicates that Putin doesn't really have any interest at all in ending the war. On the contrary, he's looking to push ahead and gain more ground.
Now, Mr. Dickinson, where do you see Donald Trump in all of this now? Because he just told Netanyahu only the other day that he will not drop bombs on Iran anymore. Now, do you see a similar language likely to be used for Russia as well?
Well, all the indications are that Trump is very reluctant to get tough with Russia, to get tough with Putin. That Trump would ideally like to have a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. He'd like to be on good terms with him. Trump's worldview seems to be largely the idea of a few major powers determining the key issues and sort of dominating global affairs. He sees Russia as part of that system, and he'd like to be working with the Russians, not against them. He's been quite open about that, and his comments towards Ukraine and also towards Europe to a lesser extent have made that quite clear. So I don't think, the view from Kyiv is certainly that there's very little expectation that Trump will get tough with Russia, that Trump will become a much more supportive American leader of Ukraine. And they're really hoping that he won't be too supportive of Russia. That's where we are these days. And that also he will maintain some minimal support for Ukraine and perhaps also sell Ukraine weapons rather than providing Ukraine with aid, actually selling them weapons, which obviously would be good for the American economy and the American defense industry. So there are certainly no expectations that Trump will become a strong advocate of Ukraine or a very tough opponent of Putin. He won't be repeating his recent attacks on Iran, on Russia, for example, or arming Ukraine. But there are hopes that because Trump is being frustrated by Russia's refusal to join his peace process, in Ukraine, he may have to he may have to sort of step back from his attempts to really ingratiate with the Russians and build, quite a friendly relationship there with the Kremlin.